Now that is a challenge. Hello my fine people, and welcome to a brand new segment on the channel, another one. In the Fatal Fix, I am going to be attempting to repair films that I think that with a few tweaks could become great films. And this doesn't necessarily mean that the film in question is terrible, just not as good as it should be. But just completely changing a film is easy. Anyone can do that. Anyone with any kind of imagination whatsoever can completely change a film and make it into something else. But what if you had restrictions, rules that prevented you from changing too much, or at least held you back from just completely restarting the whole project? Well, that's what we're going to try and do with the Fatal Fix. Today's subject? Die Another Day. I am a massive James Bond fan. Just to emphasize just how much I know about Bond films, my girlfriend bought the Trivial Pursuit James Bond, and we had a party for my 29th birthday back in December, which was James Bond themed, and at the end we had a trivia contest, and it was the whole room against me, and guess who ran out an overwhelming winner? So bragging aside, I know my James Bond, because I love my James Bond. I love every James Bond movie, but that, however, does not mean I can't identify the bad ones. Die Another Day is such a film. It has a convoluted plot at the end that borders on absolutely supernaturally ridiculous, and it wasn't well received. Everybody has a Bond, and that is the actor who was playing Bond during when they were most interested in the films, or when they were young and seeing the films for the first time. For me, and just about everybody else born in the late 80s, early 90s, that man is Pierce Brosnan. So I was very upset when Pierce was forced out of the role because they dug themselves a hole far too great to climb out of with Die Another Day. So I figured that just to cut my teeth on something relatively simple, just to see if I'm up for the challenge at all, I decided to start with the last Bond film our beloved Pierce ever did. As I hinted before, there must be rules. Otherwise, anyone can do this. This has to be a challenge. And I can fail this challenge. I'll rate myself on what a job I think I've done at the end of each video, but it's up to you guys to let me know in the comments below if you think I've improved the film or not. With that said, the rules. I cannot completely remove a character with more than 20 minutes of screen time. I'm annoyed with myself for putting that rule in because I know exactly who I would like to take out of the film, but this is a challenge after all. Rule number 2, I cannot alter the villain's plan. Yes, for those of you thinking that I should just be able to do away with the whole ending of the film, that would be too easy. And rule number 3, I cannot change a scene integral to the outcome of the film. Ooh, this is a delightful challenge. Incidentally, if you've never seen Die Another Day and you are confused out of your mind right now, you're only going to get more confused, so I suggest you leave the video, watch the film, and then come back. So I have my quick fixes all organized and ready to go, so I suggest we start in chronological order as they proceed throughout the film. So, starting with the big bad himself, played by Toby Stephens, it's Gustav Graves. Now, there's a problem with this character, and it's a big one. And that is that this is not in fact meant to be Toby Stephens. This is in fact meant to be this guy. Will Young Lee. Yes, going back to the very beginning of the film, our big bad was actually a incredibly hostile North Korean with plans for world domination starting with the destruction of Japan. But Bond intervened and failed to kill him, which forced him to show the world a new face. Enter Toby Stephens. Yeah, I agree, it doesn't make any sense. But it is part of a very ridiculous gene therapy and complete DNA rewriting process that happens in an illegal clinic in Cuba. And while that is part of the villain's main plan, I cannot allow myself to change it. However, I do believe a simple alteration could work. The problem with Gustav Graves is his accent and hair color. It makes no sense that he would be able to just become an entirely different person from vocals to hair because of this gene therapy. And with that said, I propose that throughout the film he is wearing a wig, which he only reveals when he's on his own or talking to Zhao, revealing that he, like Zhao, has a completely bald head as a result of the gene therapies, and also that he puts on an English accent, and that whenever he is not speaking directly to Bond or any other members of the public, he speaks dubbed over by Will Young Lee. I know that sounds ridiculous, but think about it. You could buy more that he was simply pretending to be Gustav Graves if he had a wig and he had a different voice when he wasn't putting on an accent. I just think it'd be an interesting change, and it would take some of the ridiculousness off of the fact that he's a completely different human being. Moving swiftly on, a scene that comes up in the film that completely takes you out of it because of how ridiculous it is the shooting gallery scene, in which Bond is trying out the latest technology in regards to holograms, and, well, it's just as ridiculous as it sounds, and the scene starts in MI6 with Bond cleaning his weapon, then going on a killing spree of all these people who have apparently invaded and are killing everybody else in the building. While this isn't on the whole a terrible scenario in real life for a Bond film, as a holographic simulation, it's just too real. There's no way in hell anything like this could possibly have existed at the time, or will anytime soon. So I would take that scene out because it's completely stupid. Not to mention, it also leads to an enormously stupid scene at the end of the film where Moneypenny is making out with Bond in this program. So you're telling me that Q programmed the Bond of this simulation to be someone that you could make out with? No. Stupid. Now we're going to get into something a little more, just to try and flex the storytelling of the film. The big betrayal of Bond at the beginning that leads to his incarceration, torture, and lust for revenge against Zhao is the betrayal of someone in his own office. Well, we assume in his own office. And that, of course, turns out to be Rosamund Pike's character, Miranda Frost. And it's revealed towards the end of the second act that this is the case. But everyone knows it's going to happen, because there's a conversation that takes place between Miranda Frost and M, in which she says, "You volunteered for this case, yet in 3 months you've turned up next to nothing," to which Miranda responds, "Graves seems to be clean." Now, forgive me, but the way that Graves' setup has been set up for us to observe, no MI6 agent worth their lunch fob is going to turn up nothing on Graves. So we, as an audience, are immediately let in on the fact that Miranda is an obvious insider. So I propose we remove the conversation between M and Miranda Frost. That way, the first you hear about her being with MI6 is when she makes out with Bond in the car park to save him from being captured, and she says, "M warned me this would happen." I tell you right now, if that's when we find out that she's with MI6, it might not be so incredibly obvious that the betrayal is going to happen. Now we're going to go after a real heavy hitter, a seriously bad scene in the film that just had audience members laughing out loud. The scene where he surfs to freedom after the wall of ice on which they're all standing is sheared off by the Icarus satellite beam. CGI in 2002 was capable of so much more than what we got with this. It looks ridiculous. It completely takes you out of the film. It needs to go. So to change that, we'll have Bond leave the Ice Palace after using the sonic ring to blast his way out of the glass ceiling, and have him immediately engage in the car chase with Zhao. And while those two are zipping around on the lake, Miranda can go then confront Jinx, and instead of saying that Bond's died, tell her again that he was vigorous in bed. I was going to take that line out, actually, because I thought, no. But if you think about it, Miranda's obsession with winning is part of her character. And the idea that she would be in competition with Halle Berry's Jinx over having sex with James Bond makes sense. So catty and stupid as it is, it does belong with her character. And voila! Lock Jinx in the palace, and then we go straight to the scene where Icarus zaps the Ice Palace and Bond has to bust in, save her, kill Zhao, yada yada yada. We took out the surf scene and simultaneously the scene where it's just like, if this is a beam of pure sun, how on earth is it not overtaking Bond right now? Our next fix, take Jinx out of the finale. I know it's a long shot, but what she has added to the film has never been overly achieving, so I find it odd that she's there for the finale given how much she's screwed up and been captured, etc., etc. So remove her from the finale and put Bond firmly in the plane with view to crashing the plane, not just popping bullet holes into Gustav Graves, because again, I don't see in the film how he expected to get away with that. I get that the plan wasn't to sneak onto the plane and they were forced to by the shot on Graves being blocked, but I still think the idea that he would just go ahead and blast him with all those other people around kind of unlikely. So I would have it be that yes, he is there, about to snipe him, but he gets blocked, has to panic, has to cut open the fence, and stow away on the plane. Then he makes for the cockpit, where he confronts Miranda Frost. I know what you're thinking. What? Why? Well, think about it. He deserves some revenge against this woman. This woman is responsible for him being in that Korean prison for 14 months. It always bothered me that Jinx and Miranda were the ones who had the showdown. Jinx has no relationship with Miranda other than a little cattiness and a little competition regarding who makes better sexy time with James Bond. I don't think that warranted the big showdown that they got. Yeah, I get it. Girl fight. Woohoo! I think it'd be much more interesting if Bond had to fight Miranda and she had him at the point of her sword and was preparing to execute him, and he got the upper hand and he stabbed her in the chest with a knife and he dispatched her overall. Throw in a little dialogue there, give him a one-liner attached to her betrayal and his victory over her, and voila! Jinx never even needed to be there in the first place. Plane starts going down, he rushes off to go confront Graves, plane accidentally ends up going through Icarus, and then we have our finale. Done. And there you have it. Those are my quick fixes according to the rules I laid out that I'm allowed to apply to Die Another Day to make it a better film. So to recap, we no longer have Jinx in the finale. Gustav Graves wears a wig and puts on an English accent, but actually still sounds like Will Young Lee. The stupid digital simulation hostage situation at MI6 is gone, and thereby the scene with Moneypenny at the end of the film making out with digital James Bond. We took out M's chat with Miranda so that there can be a tiny bit more mystery to who she actually is, and her betrayal at the end isn't quite so obvious. We completely removed the illogical sequence where Icarus is chasing Bond and somehow not overtaking him, and forces him to surf in the most ridiculous, poorly CGI'd thing of all time. And finally, we had Bond take on the finale of the film solo. He got revenge against Miranda for her betrayals, and he saved the day. Ta-da! Thank you guys so much for joining me for the first ever video of The Fatal Fix. How do you think I did? Did I improve Die Another Day? Or did I make it worse? Let me know in the comments down below, and also let me know if you have any ideas for how you would have improved the film. I'd love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, tear that like button limb from limb, and if you want to be among the first to be notified of new content on the channel, go ahead and slam that subscribe button and ring the bell, and I will see you guys next time.